welcome everyone to this very interesting topic on how to write a good internal audit report. So this is a question which is asked by many internal auditors on how to write a good audit report, which is targeted report, and it also helps in adding value to the client. So these are some of the do's and don'ts that we'll be discussing while writing in a good internal audit report that needs to be taken care of. So let's start first with the key components of an effective audit report. What should the internal auditors include to make the report concise, targeted, and meaningful to the readers of the report? This is the entire summary of the components, and we shall go into details of each of these components in the subsequent slides. So first we have a title page, then you have table of contents, the objectives and scope of the audit, executive summary of the audit methodology, audit findings, recommendations, and management response. So to complete the entire audit report, all these components are important. So we start with the title page. Now here we have given you an example of how a title page generally looks like. You can have a more better title page, or you can have some designs on the title page as per your convenience. But this is a general format of a title page where you include the audit department that you are auditing, the company name, a company logo. You can write your firm name at the bottom and the month or the date in which you have audited. Okay, then the next is the table of contents. Under table of contents, you start with the objectives and the scope of the audit, the executive summary, audit findings, and audit conclusion. Audit findings are again split into the different findings that you have, that is observation 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can give a link to each of these in the slides, or in your Word report, whatever format that you use. You can write the report in a Word or in a PPT. A PPT is much better, in terms of presentation. So you can use a PPT to an extent possible, unless an auditee requests for a Word document where you need to give more detailed report or detailed findings. So a Word report is more preferable. But the report has to be very concise so that only the relevant contents are included in the report. So first we start with the audit objectives and scope. In an objective, you define the purpose of the audit. So what are the general purposes that you see? For example, when you're doing a revenue audit, okay? In a revenue audit, you see that the objective would be to ensure that revenue is accounted correctly on time and it is reconciled with the collections. The next objective is to ensure advance received from the agents or from the distributors are accounted in the system and their balances are reconciled. There are agreements with the distributors or the agents. They are valid and are renewed on a timely basis. And the receivables are monitored to ensure on-time collection. Now, this objective is already set before the audit is initiated. It is approved by the department and the management to ensure that the audit scope and the coverage is appropriate. Now, in the audit scope, which is aligned with the audit objective, it includes all this. So in revenue booking, reconciliation and collection process, under activity, you would see product A, B, C. That means you are analyzing all these three products under revenue booking, reconciliation, and collection. Accounts receivables, you are looking at the aging analysis of accounts receivables. And you can also add balance confirmation. Distributor advances, again, you're looking at the aging and the booking of distributor advances. Revenue system controls, adequacy of system effectiveness, and the controls that are there in the system, are appropriate based on the processes that are defined. So this is the broad scope of the audit that is mentioned, so that the readers of the report know what was the objective of the audit and what you have covered. You can also include, the exclusions. For example, if certain area is excluded from your scope, ideally it should be a part of the scope, but it has been excluded because of, management request. So you can add a statement showing the exclusions to the audit.
And even you can add the period of review that you have covered this particular scope with reference. So you may have started it from January and you have done it till March. So you can write that period, that the scope has been reviewed for the following period.
Okay, the next one is the executive summary. Okay, this is a very important part for those who only want to know what is the summary of the entire audit report, and this is generally read by the management or the board, because they are only interested in knowing what are the key control gaps and what is the recommendation of the auditor. So this executive summary may not cover all the observations in an audit report, but it only gives the concise and the key points which are imperative for the management to know.
See, the board of directors or the key members of the management may not have adequate time to go through the entire audit report, which could be a long document. So they are expecting an executive summary, a document which is very concise, maybe 1 or 2 pages max, and they can be read by them in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, and they can get the entire gist of what was found in the audit.
So an executive summary generally runs into 1.5 to 2 pages maximum, to ensure that it is concise and it is only used by the management. So in an executive summary, the internal audit of this is the executive summary of the revenue accounting process. So this is an example that we have given. So I'll just go through the entire example for you to know that what an executive summary looks like in a revenue accounting process. So the internal audit of the revenue accounting process identify the key observations that require management attention to enhance the financial accuracy, compliance, and operational efficiency. The significant findings are as follows. Now here we have categorically mentioned significant findings. So only high risk areas are mentioned over here. Revenue recognition policy gaps. The existing revenue recognition practices are not fully aligned with the applicable accounting standards, which is increasing the risk of financial misstatements. Invoices aggregating to $8,000 were issued for the previous month after the accounting period had closed in 5 instances. Now, if you see the last statement, invoice aggregating to $8,000 were issued for the previous month and in 5 instances. This is giving a perspective to your observation. If you would have just mentioned that the revenue recognition practices are not fully aligned with applicable standards, the management would not understand as to what is the intensity of this observation. To give that perspective and intensity, we have added the instances here. So it is not about just giving the gaps, but also supporting it with the relevant evidence in a concise form. Now, with this observation, you also have to give a solution, which is important. So the recommendation here, again written in a very concise form, update and standardize the revenue recognition policies to ensure compliance with the accounting standards. So here we are pointing at the governance issue. So if this governance issue is generally taken care of by the management, so that is why it has been highlighted to them. There would be various other recommendations which are corrective action for the team to do, which is not coming here. So the recommendation could be 5, but we have only given the important part which the management needs to take care of. The next point is the inadequate reconciliation controls. Monthly reconciliation between sales system and general ledger are inconsistent, leading to discrepancies in the revenue reported. During the audit, it was observed that revenue entries of $15,000 recorded in the sales system for the month of October 24 were not reflected in the general ledger due to the delayed data synchronization, which resulted in an underreporting of revenue for the period. Now, this underreporting of revenue is critical so that the management knows what is the impact. While we are highlighting an observation, we are also ensuring that the root cause and the risk also are built over here. So this underreporting of revenue is going to impact the financial statement. That is why it has become a part of the executive summary. Now, the recommendation for this is implement a robust reconciliation process with defined timelines and accountability. If you see here, accountability is again a part of the governance portion. So that is why it has been highlighted here. Next is the delays in collection. Delays in collection process were identified, leading to increased debtor delays and potential cash flow risk. Now you see the risk is a high risk if it's a cash flow risk. The key instances have been given below. If you see there is a delay which has been pointed out 2 months, unpaid with no follow-up, invoice due on 20th, but it was escalated only in October. This is a big control gap. Now recommendation here, it is recommended to implement a tracking mechanism, establish escalation procedures, review receivables regularly to improve the collection efficiency and cash flow. So a tracking system and an escalation procedure again are governance issues, and from the risk management perspective, these have to be taken care of by the management. So that's how an executive summary has been formulated. If you see, the executive summary is concise and to the point. It does not include any unnecessary or duplicate words. Okay, now we come to the next portion of an audit report, which is audit findings and recommendation. After you complete the executive summary, you get into the details of each of those observations. So what should the auditors include to make the report concise, targeted again, and meaningful to the readers? Okay, these are the 4 tabs that we'll be explaining in detail, which are part of the any audit report. Audit finding, root cause, risk, and recommendation. So an auditor's job is done when all these 4 boxes are properly filled up. Okay, first is the audit findings. Under audit findings, you highlight the key issues. So under finding, there can be an issue and plus there can be a background to an issue. So first you may want to note down that this is the current process. Like for collections, the process would be that the receivables team extracts the aging report on a monthly basis and sends it to the sales team for collection. Okay, this is the background that you would give. Then you would give your findings that in spite of these reports going to the sales team, the follow up is not effective, which is your finding, which has resulted in X amount which has been due for more than 90 days or more than 60 days. So this is your finding which is supported by an evidence. Then the root cause of that is the underlying problem or the source, which is very critical. So without a root cause, your finding has no meaning because you don't know why that problem occurred. Okay, to get into the root cause, you need to discuss this again with the users to understand why the collections are not coming on time in spite of follow up. So that root cause will be mentioned as a part of the report. Then supporting the root cause, there will be again be a risk that what happens if the collection doesn't come on time. So you give a negative impact, and against that there would be a recommendation as to how you can uh, curb that root cause, or what would be the solution. The root cause and the recommendation should be aligned, so you cannot have a root cause which does not align with the recommendation. If you say the follow up or the escalation procedure is a problem, then the recommendation has to be that you need to improve the escalation, or you need to set timelines for escalating, or you need to build these controls in the system so that the escalation process is automated.
So the recommendation should be addressing the root cause which was reported in the findings.
So you cannot have a root cause which is X and a recommendation which is Y. So they have to be aligned with each other. So we take an example of an audit finding here, delays in collection, which we just explained. Okay, how do you write this? Delays in collection. So observation starts with significant delays were noted in the collection process for outstanding receivables. Instances are given below. Now you see in one line we have mentioned that there were delays in collection without giving any unnecessary or unwanted words. Customer A invoice $12,000 due on 15 September, collected on 10 November after a delay of 2 months. Okay, customer B invoice $8,500 due on 1st October, remains unpaid as of the date of the audit with no follow-up documentation available. And customer C an invoice $5,000 due on 20th August was escalated for collection only in late October 24. Now, if you remember in the executive summary, these were written in a very concise form. So we had not given these dates in the executive summary, which is now a part of the detailed report. Root cause: ineffective follow-up procedures, poor coordination between accounts receivable and sales team, and unclear due dates on some invoices contributed to the delayed collections. Now, this description is impact on cash flow and credit risk. Credit risk means there is a potential for bad debts. Recommendation, now you see, is aligning with your root cause. Implement a robust collection tracking system to monitor due dates and follow up systematically. Okay, now this is coming because there was an ineffective follow procedure. So we are recommending a tracking system. Establish clear escalation procedures for overdue payments based on predefined aging criteria. This is again because of poor coordination and ineffective follow-up. Regularly review the accounts receivable aging report to identify and address the delinquent accounts promptly. Consider offering incentives for early payments or introducing penalties for late payments to encourage timely collection. Now you see the recommendation is based on what the root cause was identified. So we have addressed the root cause through 4 different recommendations. Then comes the management response. So an audit report ends once your finding and recommendation is there, but it becomes more effective when there is a management response attached to it. So management response is a validation for your observation, and it also an agreement between the auditor and the auditee that the recommendation will be implemented. So corrective action, the management response divided into 2: corrective action and preventive action. A corrective action is the immediate step that the management or the auditee is going to take. In this case, the corrective action is implement a tracking system for due dates, follow-ups, and escalate overdue payments based on aging criteria. Now, the corrective action has been based on the recommendation that we gave. Preventive action: train teams on due date enforcement, regularly review aging reports, and introduce early payment incentives. Again, this is aligned with the recommendation. So they have split the recommendation into corrective and preventive action. Here again, it is important for the recommendation to align with the corrective action and preventive action. Then the person responsible is who is going to do this. Okay, again here we have divided. The accounts receivable manager will do the tracking system, the sales manager is responsible for the coordination with the customer, and the finance manager for review and implementation of the policy. That is to ensure that there is a proper escalation policy in place. Target date for implementation, by when is this going to be implemented, or when the corrective action and the preventive action will be taken has been split. So a tracking system has a date has been defined, for escalation procedure date has been defined, and training a date has been defined. So all these help the auditor to ensure that the actions are implemented, and based on these dates the auditor can do a follow-up to check whether the actions have been implemented. An audit report to be effective has to ensure that follow-up is undertaken and actions are implemented. Otherwise, the audit report makes no sense. Okay, then you come to the audit conclusion. This audit conclusion is again an important part of the audit report, because here the auditor gives an opinion on what is his conclusion on the entire audit that was undertaken for a revenue accounting department. So the audit conclusion again is in a summarized form, which tells the management as to what is the auditor's opinion on the entire system. So here again we have given you a sample example. Let's read through it. The overall revenue accounting system is functional but requires improvement in certain areas to ensure greater accuracy and compliance with accounting standards. While the processes for recording and recognizing revenue are generally effective, we have used the term generally is because there were just few exceptions. Issues such as inconsistent reconciliation, delays in invoicing, and lack of clarity in revenue recognition policies were identified. So these are the exceptions to that entire effectiveness. Addressing these gaps will enhance the financial reporting, mitigate the risk of misstatements, and optimize cash flow. Now, if you see, this entire summary is aligned with your executive summary. So you are not speaking outside the executive summary. These are the important high risk areas, although they can be 10 points, but out of the 10 observations, these 3 are critical so that 80% of the revenue accounting system will be streamlined. Okay. Now let's look into the ABC of report writing. Okay, these are some of the points that we shall share with you to ensure that your report is effective and it is brief. Okay, A is active, brief, and concrete. Now, what is active? When you use active voice, there is again limited use of words. So there is a clarity. An example is the consultant reconciled the revenue report. Okay, instead of you writing, the revenue report was reconciled by the consultant. So it gives more clarity here. Next is it has to be brief. Use simple words and short sentences under 20 words. Focus on the key message, avoid unnecessary details. Now here you are not writing an examination, or you are not writing an exam paper here where you need to keep on filling the papers. So the more brief your report is, the more to the point it is, it will be read by the process owner and the management. By writing more in the report, you will not be trying to justify your point. You have to write it to the point to ensure that it is understood by the user. Concrete language. Be specific and direct. Okay, an example would be we analyzed revenue data instead of we performed an analysis of revenue data. Now see, again you have reduced some of the words. And is not there, of the is not there in this statement. So again you are being very direct and you are writing in a concrete language. Avoid vague terms like investigation or discussion. You need to state who did it. We analyze the data and make decision, instead of analysis led to decision and discussion and decision making. So you have to you have to make sure that your report is very clear in terms of what you have done and how you did it. Okay, an example of vague would be we observed some instances. The word some is a vague term, but if you specify we observed 5 instances, it gives more clarity. So these are some of the do's and don'ts of a report. What should be used and what is preferable to use. What should not be used. Okay, do not enforce should be done. Instead mention needs to be done. Next, it was intimated to the department. It was informed to the department officials looks much better than it was intimated to the department. Presently, instead of present, use at present. On comparing, on comparison of. It was wrongly recorded. It was correctly recorded. Okay, instead of using joinees, use the word recruits. In case of 11 instances for a period of 30 days, in 11 instances during a period of 30 days. Now again you are removing the unwanted words. Case of. Misuse, instead of misuse, use unauthorized use. Next, it will be helpful in, it will facilitate in. Now these are the terms which are preferably used while writing the report. Okay, let's look at few more tips now. Write the report preferably in the past tense, but do not mix the past and the present tense in the report. Inculcate the habit of writing each day's finding on the same day. Very, very, very important. If you do not write your findings on the same day, you will lose a track of it, and then you may have to again go back and do the analysis and try to find out what was the reason of your analysis and what were you trying to obtain out of that analysis. Do not use vague words. The same has been provided. This is a vague word. The same does not have any description. Okay, the intimation was given, or we observed some instances. These are all vague words. Some is a vague word. Same has been provided is a vague word. What was provided? What are the count of instances? What intimation was given? This is what has to come in your report. A report should not be something where a user has to come back and ask you that what do you mean by this. It has to ensure absolute clarity. Figures to be rounded off to the nearest lakh or crore or million. Okay, you cannot write 10000. Instead of, you can just write 1 lakh or 1 crore, and plus you need to round it off to the nearest decimal. Standardized writing date as January 28, 2024 or 25 instead of 28-01-XX. Now this is something which you can prefer to choose, but you need to ensure that you standardize these dates across the entire report. For each and every observation, provide the sample selected and the deviation observed. So when you're writing an observation, to identify what is the perspective, you need to give the percentage of the deviation that you observed, and also need to write down the sample size because it represents the entire population. So the materiality of your observation is based on the sample that you selected and the deviation that was reported. The recommendation given should be based on the deviation observed. Minor points should be discussed and not reported. This is again to not allow the process owner to waste his time reading the report. If minor points are discussed and implemented, it may not be reported. Consistent font and font size to be used in the entire report. You cannot have two different fonts and font sizes. If you are using Calibri or Arial, make sure you use it across the report. If the font size is 11, 10 or 12, it has to be standardized across the report. Uniformity to be maintained in the bullets and sub-bullets used and serial numbers. So if you have a paragraph and then there are bullets under it, all the bullets have to be standardized. The bullets that you use in a observation, risk and recommendation have to be standard. Annexures exhibits have to be numbered. Okay, how do you write this as? Refer exhibit 1, or details are given in exhibit 1 or annexure 1. So whatever you are using, if you are using refer exhibit, make sure it is standard across the report as refer exhibit, or you write details are given in exhibit 1, then it has to be standard across the entire report as details are given in exhibit 1. Less than 5 instances to be included in the main report. So if the instances are not many, you can put it as a part of your main report instead of creating an annexure for it. Improper amounts would be $20,000. Now you see here there is no comma. Okay, the correct way is $20 and then there is a comma. So again, this is standardization and a correct way of writing an amount. So with this, we conclude our basics of report writing. If you have any queries, please write it to us in the comment section. We shall be glad to help you.